Township Zoning Commission meeting for Monday, June 23rd. The 4 items on the agenda. The first item is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. The second item on the agenda is approval of sets of minutes, and it looks like we can act on February and May, not March and April. Correct?
Yes.
So for the February minutes, Jonathan, Ann, and I were here, so I'll entertain a motion to act on those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second?
Second that.
Thank you, Ann.
Mr. Lewis?
Abstain.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll go to those May minutes. Ann, Jonathan, Jay were here, so again, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes from May.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Mr.
Roll call.
Lewis?
Yes, aye.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Abstain.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Third item is case number 1-1993 Anderson, a major modification to final development plan. Jonathan, or I'm sorry, Paul?
Yes.
Go ahead.
The applicants are John and Jenny Pauley, who are the property owners. The location is at 8209 Wycliffe Drive. The request is to grant a major modification to the final development plan for Case 1, 1993, and this is to construct an in-ground pool, retaining wall, and fence into the limits of construction easement in the Greenbelt area. This subdivision, as most of you are very familiar with, was approved through a zone change that included both the limits of construction area and a Greenbelt area. And there is specific language in both of those that restrict any kind of structures being constructed in both of those areas. So when a property owner comes forward with an improvement to those areas, it's treated as a major modification to the final development plan. This is the property in question outlined in red, and the zoning for the subdivision itself, the sanctuary, is zoned AACUP Community Unit Plan. The Community Unit Plan was the portion of that zone change that allowed for some modifications and setbacks, and also some different restrictions that you might not find in other zoning classifications. All of the surrounding uses in the subdivision are single family. To the south, you can see the Johnson Hills Park. This is just an aerial of the site in question. The intent of the limits of construction in the Greenbelt was to protect the wooded hillsides at the time of that subdivision. And this portion of the subdivision, it's actually pretty clear on the aerial, the intent of those restrictions, and that was to protect the wooded areas. This is the proposed site plan with the pool. As you can see, the pool area here, and we'll be able to see from the site photos a little bit of the condition of the rear yard, but you can somewhat see that from the aerial. The location of the pool is over in this grassy area, and it is not into the wooded area, so actually none of the wooded area would be disturbed in order to construct the pool, but it would be over in this area. This is a deck here. This is a covered deck over in this area. This is the retaining wall, and I didn't throw the topography map in here, but there's a substantial decrease in grade from the back of the property. You'll be able to see that from the aerials, or from the site photos. So the pool approximate location, they are realigning the stairs off of the deck. This is the retaining wall, the proposed fence, and then there are some columns with lights as well around the pool. This is the landscape plan, a little bit more detail about the relocated stairs, the light pillars, and the fence in between the pillars, again the retaining wall, and then landscaping. This gives you an idea. This was the site plan for the construction of the home, which was in 1996. The pink line shows the limits of construction, and the green line shows the greenbelt area. You can see the approximate distances from the existing structure, and this does not include the decks. This is when the home was actually built, but 30 feet, 15 feet, just to give you an idea. we'll get into the decks. In a little bit of the history about the property, in 1996, the home was built. Shortly thereafter, a separate permit was taken out for 2 circular decks. And at the time, it was interpreted that decks could extend into the limits of construction area. And that somewhat set the precedence of decks in this subdivision. The zoning administrator at that time allowed for that. So the original deck did go into the limits of construction area, however, it did not go into the greenbelt area. In 2002, the plan in front of you, the decks were added onto. So these were the original decks in white here in 1996. In 2002, a zoning certificate was applied for to add on to the decks. And then while we were out doing inspections and research on the property, we found that the cover was added in 2011 without the benefits of a zoning certificate. So, and that changes the dynamics a little bit of a deck being allowed into the limits of construction. Now it has, and we'll go to the site photos, it has a cover over top of the deck. So theoretically, this should have been reviewed by the zoning commission as well back in 2011. The other addition is this, which we would have interpreted that as an addition as well, and not a deck since it has a roof. So we also should throw that in on this review tonight to clean this up if the zoning commission decides, you know, whatever their decision is, to keep that in consideration. So, and we have talked to the applicants about the cover over the deck needing building permits, and they will have to retrofit or reapply for building permits for the cover over the deck, if approved by the zoning commission. Again, these are the site photos. These are the steps that would be realigned to come straight out from the house. The pool would be in the grassy area. This is the house next door. You can see they have, there's some existing landscaping on the Polly's property that somewhat screens their pool. And even though it is somewhat, the houses are around a curve in the road, so it looks like it's in their side yard. This is technically the rear yard of the Polly, so the location is fine as being in the rear yard. The trees in the back, this shows that the greenbelt area, and then there's a steep decrease in grade. So as far as findings, staff found, and I won't go over the history of the subdivision, but there's been 9 approvals for similar structures in the limits of construction area for the subdivision since it was originally approved in 1993. And those are listed in the staff report, except for the one last month that was recently approved as a pool. So I won't go through that. Findings, again, staff feels that the intent of the green belt area is still there. They are not going into that wooded area behind their home. The area where the pool is going is a manicured lawn. As far as the retaining wall and all the improvements, we feel that it's still within the intent of the original green belt area. And you can see the findings. So staff recommends approval of the modification to allow for the construction of the pool and patio area as is consistent with underlying zoning of the property, and approval of the pool area would be consistent with prior decisions of the zoning commission. Again, with the addition over top of the deck as well, that does encroach into the limits of construction. So not the greenbelt area, but the limits of construction area. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the staff at this time, Jay?
Was there any issues with the lighting, light post you mentioned?
No.
No questions?
Jonathan, Ann?
Yeah, the question I was going to ask was how did they get a building permit for the screened-in porch or whatever?
There was no building
But
permit.
they didn't get a building permit for that, so, okay. And then the only other question I had, maybe this is for the applicant, is I noticed in the letter from the sanctuary at Ivy Hills HOA that they said the plans presented appeared to be in compliance with the covenants and restrictions and are approved. But isn't that greenbelt construction limit, that is not part of their HOA at all? That's only a zoning document?
No, it says that it should be enforced. It's in the restrictions for the subdivision that are provided to the owners of the property. So that's where The condition of the zone change refers to those covenants and restrictions that are enforced by the homeowners association. So the zoning commission is enforcing the condition that was placed on the zone change, which refers to the document of the homeowners association.
So
Does that
I
make
guess
sense?
my question, so the letter, when it says it's in compliance with the covenants and restrictions, it's not necessarily in compliance, but they are recommending approval of it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Paul, the only question I have is, from time to time, when we get these homeowners association recommendations, I kind of assume that their process is fair and equitable, and that, adjoining property owners are notified and given a chance to speak, and I'm not asking you to verify that this evening, but just in future cases, it might be good to know that that's the process.
Okay.
Okay, good. Other questions? Ann?
No.
No. With that, we'll go ahead and listen to the applicant and your representatives. If there's any additional information you guys would like to provide, we'll take that information. If so, just come on up to the podium, introduce yourself, and
Okay, I'm John Hawley, I'm a homeowner. Just to answer your question regarding homeowners association, we do talk to both sets of neighbors. We did on the original application as well as this one. So, that may not answer your total question, but again, in fairness to them, we did talk to them to let them know that we're going to build a fence, and we're going to be obviously a pool builder, and we've got the deck builder here as well, very cognizant of their area there. So.
okay.
We won't be tearing up into their land to get to the back and that kind of thing. Those pictures will show you it's sloped quite a bit. We'll have to go down, yes, you probably can't even see it, but you'll have to go down near their house, but we can do it within our property guidelines to dig the pool, so to speak. So,
Any questions of the applicant? Jay, anything?
No questions.
Jonathan?
I guess the limits of construction with that hillside and building a retaining wall, do you anticipate, how are you going to protect the green belt area from that construction?
well, I can tell you that as far as the area itself, and again, I don't know that it's necessarily the green belt area, but where our tree line is, will not be, there would be nothing taken out there, no trees, no shrubbery, none of that. So the retaining wall will be built, I think, this side of the tree line about, yeah, it's probably 10 to 12 feet. Is it fair enough, Scott?
It's 12 to 16
Sorry.
feet from the closest build sheet.
Right.
Honeysuckle, I guess you could say.
It's really the only buildable space we have is that side yard.
That's the only question I have this time.
Any questions?
And the only question I have to do with the covering on the deck. Did you not know, or did somebody build that for you and they didn't get the building
We did
permit?
have it built, and I did not know, because we had it
Sure.
approved before, and then Paul told us when he came out, he said, because you put a roof on, it's now considered a structure. I did not
Sure.
know that, so, I apologize,
Yeah,
but
the guy who built it, I bet, knew.
I'm sorry?
I said the guy who built it knew you needed a building permit, but that's, yeah, we understand.
Okay,
okay, thanks.
thank you. Is there anybody else here tonight that'd like to speak on this particular subject? Me? Come on up to the podium and introduce yourself.
Okay, so we're neighbors to the back of your property. We come off Bridle on Hidden View. So when you...
Ma'am, your name is-
Oh, I'm sorry, Janet Miller.
Can we pull up with the parcels so that we know where?
I'm Janet Miller, my husband Jeff, and my neighbor Susanna Cahill. So at the end, yeah, that one right up, the one you just had up, the next one of
where
the
the-
plots, yeah. So we're at the back end of that property. Yeah, we're that house, and then Susanna's the one right there. So that's who we are. Okay. When the neighborhood was developed, because we've been there, we've been on Hidden View for 27 years, I think. We were at a zoning meeting, and there was a lot of discussion about the green belt and the construction limits, because, that's very creaky and hilly back there. And so it's not something that we are privy to. We don't have any documentation about what that means. Simplifying it, we were thinking it was like green space, but obviously it's not green space. These are people's lots, unlike green space, which is, owned by the township. So that's one question we have. We'd like a little bit of understanding. I mean, I think it's great that you've come in and said, hey, we want to infringe some on those limits, but what are those limits? And at what point would you say, no, that's too much? Because, that's really my side yard there. It's not really my backyard, it's my side. So at what point, like, if you're saying, okay, this is fine, it looks good, but are there some limits to what you would allow in terms of construction and in moving into that greenbelt area? Because with the ash trees that we've lost, and we've all lost a lot of ash trees, and they're continuing to come down and taking down good trees with them, it's a lot clearer. When the neighborhood went in, we could see 1 or 2 houses. Now we can see half a dozen houses in the winter, and we can see 3 or 4 houses even in the summer because of the lightening up in the woods there. So that's kind of one of the things. We're just wondering, in here you make reference to a lot of already given infringement into the green belt. It's probably backing up to homes along the Johnson Park property, so we weren't notified of those. But at what point does that become an issue?
With these cases that preceded this, where the zoning commission has approved these actions, what has been the nature of these, let's say the significance of the encroachment?
Right.
And to get to your question, so this site plan here was taken from the final development plan that was approved with the zone change and some of the zoning hearings that you were at. So
Right.
these lines were drawn on every single lot, and they vary per lot. And a lot of it at the time was based off, and I don't know, I wasn't here then, but it's my understanding that most of it was based off the existing area of the forested area, and also topography of the lots, and just the normal building window for the homes on the lots. So, when you take into consideration the front yard setback from the road, a building window for the house, then there was this pink line that was drawn for the limits of construction, and that was meant to protect the actual trees themselves. So you wouldn't have construction in that would damage the trees to the back. So there's not a specific distance. It varies per lot, but we do have the plats here in the office. And every house that was built has a site plan just like this that shows where the limits are on that lot and where the greenbelt easement is. The cases that have generally come before the zoning commission, most of them have been in grassy areas or manicured lawns. The requests, the pools, most of them have been pools. We've had some recent outdoor living areas that include patios, fireplaces, that sort of thing. And the majority of the ones that have been approved, I believe almost all of them have just been in an area that really wasn't a naturally forested area. It was just a manicured lawn. And the zoning commission's rationale for approving those was that the intent of the greenbelt easement was still there because they're not taking out any trees.
Right, but it probably hadn't been lawn until it turned into lawn.
It may not have been.
Right.
You're right.
So
You're right.
there's not any notice of, we're going to take down and make lawn there.
You're right.
So that's not, okay. Okay, so it's kind of got this creepy thing where you can creep in, turn it into lawn, and then build on it. So again, then at what point over the building line would you consider? I mean, and that's something you don't have to answer me because you don't obviously have an answer, but I just would say it was built with certain concessions given to the builder to, reduce some of the frontage and some other things, as I recall, like there were, because the other lands were going to be greenbelted. And so the concept of that, we'd like to see that continued, that concept of the green belt for both noise buffer, because it's important, as well as, and it's what makes Anderson a nice place to live. It's cooler, it's nicer, the temperature is better, even with losing the trees, but that all diminishes as we lose more and more trees. So, that kind of, I mean, if we're allowing people to make lawn and then a few years later come in and say, I want to build something there because it's not trees anyway, it's lawn, but they're not going to tell you, I took down the trees and put in the lawn. And I'm not saying you did that, but, but anyway, so that's, I mean, I think there needs to be some thought there, because we're just going to get into it, people come in and say, well, the precedent is you've allowed it before. And, at what point, how far back could you go? So that's kind of our concern. That's all. This looks, rather simple and like certainly not anything that I'm going to say, but
No trees have been touched on either patio or the...
Well, I guess maybe in future cases, maybe what we could do is go back on the Cages aerials and look and see, just to give us a rough idea.
Yes.
You know, it might be a good idea.
Well, yeah.
Because that would show us where the tree line was, going back, I think,
Yeah,
all the way
we've watched
2001,
it
I think, is the first.
You know, the yards are getting
1997,
big.
those are black and white.
Which I can't blame them,
But-
I mean, we all do the same. Well, to be honest, we have less grass because it's a pain. Anyway,
Yeah, I'd like to say a few things, maybe.
Thank you.
okay.
And I'm Jeff Miller, same address, back up to them. I have two concerns. We, as Janet was saying, we can see this house now, and we're going to see the back of this wall. So I don't know what type of wall it is. And should maybe there be there was no landscaping shown behind the wall, but, I mean, in the winter, we will see it plain as day, and, you know, if I walk to the edge of my property, I can see that house. So I'm concerned about, you know, what the wall's going to look like. And I'm also concerned about the light poles you talked about. Are we talking about, I mean, landscaping lights are usually this high. Are we talking about lights up real high that we're going to see at night from our house?
Make it into the slideshow.
So is this what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Just on the wall?
Yeah.
Okay, the lights are okay.
Sorry, I didn't.
Can you put up number,
I couldn't tell.
Paul, can you put up number 4?
But I am concerned about the wall. You know, so I'd like to know, is it a Allen block wall? Is it, what's the wall made out of? And should there be some consideration for some landscaping on the back side of the wall? Because it won't show from their house, but it'll show from our direction. That's what I'm asking.
What is the height of the wall in the back? What is the height of the retaining wall in the back?
I believe it starts at grade and up to 6 feet tall.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comments? If not, I'll open it up for discussion from zoning commission members. Always like to go from my left, Jay. so-
No questions,
Okay.
comments?
Jonathan, anything more you want to add?
Not at this time,
All
thank you.
right, Ian, anything? Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion from the zoning commission on this case 1-1993.
I would make a motion to approve the modification to case number 1-93 for the property at 8209 Wycliffe, to allow for the pool to be constructed as proposed, and also to approve retroactively the two portions of the existing deck that were covered without permits, on the condition that building permits be obtained retroactively for those two coverings.
Okay. Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Second, thank you, Jay. Roll call?
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the fourth item on the agenda is case number 1-1993, Anderson, major modification to a final development plan. Staff?
And this is not a public hearing, this is just for discussion purposes to determine if we need a public hearing. But last month, this case was before you and was approved with the setbacks of 32 feet to the rear and 60 and 26, as you can see from this photo. And this was the original pool that was presented to you. It was odd-shaped, but approximately 20 feet wide by 34 feet in length. The applicants have come back to us requesting a larger pool, so the pool reduced, the sizes are reduced, the setbacks are reduced to 20 feet, 8 feet in the rear, 56 on one side and still 26 on the other. I wanted to run this by you to make sure you were comfortable that it didn't need to go back through the process, that this was still, substantially the same as what you reviewed last month.
So, let me understand, the nice blue colored here, has
Yes.
this been proposed, is the yellow,
Well,
what?
I'm sorry, and I have okay, so the original pool that was presented to you last month was 20 feet by 34 feet. Now, the applicants are requesting I'm sorry, I have them confused. They both look so much the same. Okay, let's start over again.
I did look at this, but I was confused
I know.
also. So
Okay,
that's why I was
and they
like,
use the same site
people
plan. It
just
does get
ask.
confusing. Okay, so last month, they were requesting a 16-foot by 36 feet. Now they are requesting a 20 feet by 34 foot. It still increases or decreases the setback.
By 4 feet?
Yes,
Okay.
on two sides.
So the blue area on the pool, the actual pool size isn't shown on the new proposal, is that?
Right, that's correct.
Okay, that's what I was having trouble with. And the reason is they just decided they wanted a bigger pool?
And if you need to see if you'll recall, their backyard was pretty much flat and all manicured.
Did they resolve the issue with the fire pit, do you know?
Right now, it's just being eliminated.
Have any property owners next door been notified of the modifications, the changes?
No, and I think, that's what I wanted to bring to you tonight. We wouldn't notify them unless we had another public hearing, and really, I wanted to run this by you to see if you felt okay with the new size, or if you felt it needed a new public hearing.
I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with it. It's not being increased significantly. There wasn't anybody at that meeting. The homeowners association had reviewed it and signed off on it. So I'm trying to think, well, gee, if I'm on their next door neighbor and the pool is 2 feet closer, I'm probably not even going to notice the 2 feet, so.
Did the homeowners, are the homeowners association notified of the changes and approved them?
I don't know if that has been the case or not. I don't know.
I think that should be a logical step to have them go back
And present it to the homeowners
present them.
association.
And if they get the blessing, then I would see no reason to not move forward.
John?
Okay.
I mean, the only thing is that 4 feet additional into the greenbelt area. Are we truly setting more of a precedence like she was talking about? Because I was kind of thinking that when she was talking,
It is creep.
it is more creep into it.
The
And yet it's
interesting thing about
manicured.
that, it's supposed to be enforced by the homeowners association,
Right.
that creep, because that's
Exactly.
something we wouldn't know until it was done.
Yeah.
Paul, as a general rule, I guess my position on these types of things is about a 10% is my rule of thumb, and we have a 40-foot wide pool, pool. You're talking about a 4-foot increase. I know it's back and sideways, but I don't consider that significant, so maybe subject to notification to the homeowners and,
That would be my suggestion.
we
Okay.
proceed. Do we need to take any motion on something like that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because you hate to have them come back again, because then they're going to lose another month.
Right.
They're going to lose their pool season. They're not
Exactly.
going to have a pool party, so.
Right.
That's right.
Okay,
All right.
that's all I need.
Anything else before the zoning commission?
I just had a general question. If we've had this many type of cases come through and they're all just basically getting a blessing, why not the covenants and restrictions at the sanctuary, why don't they amend their codes to prevent them having to come before the zoning commission? Because they're just approving everything anyway. Wouldn't it make sense for them to,
I think, and Ann mentioned this too, I agree, because we receive these a lot, or we receive these requests a lot. I think it would take a major modification to the CUP in general. It may even be a substantial modification and actually take it through the entire process, again, starting with regional planning back through the zoning commission and trustees.
I think it would be
And I
because it
think
was
the
a condition.
township could possibly be the applicant, since it was a zone change. We recently had one for Rayborn, that was a subdivision approval, that had to be the actual property owners, but I think what it would be a substantial modification, actually, and take it through the complete process all over again to take those easements off or modify that language.
okay.
But when I asked you that before the meeting, and then you hear adjacent property owners come up afterwards and say, well, or, during this case, and say, well, when we, didn't oppose the zone change when this was done, we were counting on that green belt. And if that gets modified, then obviously, we lose that control. And you can say, well, yeah, we've approved all of them to date. Well, we have, but maybe I hope they were all appropriate approvals. And maybe in the future, we won't be approving all of them. So, I don't know now. I mean, knowing now that there are people that have concerns and feel like they're more impacted, I don't know.
I think I'm
People
less,
that spoke tonight, the second party, were they outside the sanctuary?
They were adjacent property owners off of Bridle.
I think I'm less concerned about the limits of construction, probably more concerned about the greenbelt, again.
Right, yeah,
Because
same
that
here.
was there for those reasons. and
Right,
the
same here.
Well, it might
limits
be
of
useful.
construction was probably more to rein in the builders.
It might be useful on the basis of these remarks to remind the chairman of their homeowners association that we are getting attendees at these things. There are concerns about how the whole thing is evolving over time. 'Cause trees come down and things happen, and
2 or 3 cases ago, it was actually the president of a homeowners association went through the process. I don't know if he still is, but he got a corner to this property.
Yeah, I remember when he came through.
So,
Right
but
now,
yes, we
right
can
now,
have
is it that they have to go to the home, for example, to remove trees? Do they have to go to the home if they were in the green belt? I mean, all the ash tree, we've taken 5 down, unfortunately, they were dead. And if they had been in that green belt, would they have had to go to the HOA?
I don't
Don't
know.
know, okay.
I don't know.
anything else?
Nothing.
Nope. Are we going to have a meeting next month? Can we?
I don't know that yet either.
We are tentatively meeting July 28th, but we have not.
Officially received any applications.
When is the submittal? That's okay, that's all right, coming up.
3 weeks prior.
Coming up, that's good.
Okay, hearing nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Jay. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jonathan. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.